Savior of our people.
Hello and welcome to the QUACKCAST. This is the Drunk Duck QUACKCAST, QUACKCAST number 414, and with me is Pitface.
Hello.
Baines.
Hello.
And Tanserine.
Oh, hello.
Get two hellos because she has two syllables in her name. So, we're going to be chatting about bad Hollywood, or bad Hollywood adaptions, or, you know, we're just using the term Hollywood as the term for the media industry, the commercial media industry. And so this QUACKCAST is going to be about what changes would be made to your comic or whatever webcomic in order to make it more palatable to an audience. And we're just going to sort of spitball some funny ideas of the conversion that happens. You know, adult characters get turned into teens, and their dramatic situations they get involved in get turned into love triangles and that kind of thing, because that's what Hollywood understands is a mass appeal subject versus, you know, the more interesting things that media often has about it. You know, it all the characters should be emo teens because. But before we get into that, we have to bring up the featured comic. And the featured comic this week was something QUACKCAST featured, and it was Ursa Tale. So, take it away, Kwai, with Ursa Tale.
Hello, this is QUACKCAST, and the feature I've selected for this week is Ursa Tale by DX Kim 123, and it is rated E for everyone. On the day of their wedding, a non-ugly, non-evil, and manipulative witch transformed Davros, aka Davy, the groom, into a giant brown bear. Now he and his wife, Jazray, have started a quest where they are trying to find a way to turn the spell around and to transform him back into his human body. This is an adventure story starring a cat girl and an Ursa Major, hoping to find a way back to normalcy. This comic is in full digital color with dynamic poses and entertaining facial expressions. Find out the reason for the witch's decision to transform a man into a bear and read Ursa Tale by DX Kim 123, rated E.
And that was the featured comic. Thank you very much for that, QUACKCAST. So, after that, we have the featured music. Gun Wallace has given us the theme to Grind, which is a sexy, sexy comic by Lothar. So, my description of Grind: raw, slutty vocals and a slow, sleazy tune, perfect for a burlesque show. The music evokes the acid colors and sensual, hardcore, comical imagery of Lothar's Grind perfectly. So, take it away, Gun Wallace, with Grind.
Oh, viewer advisory warning.
And that was the featured music, Lothar's Grind. A good comic, but very sexy, so viewer's advisory is advised. Well, viewer discretion is advised. It's not safe for work, so yeah. Right, guys.
Not safe for home.
Not safe for home, not safe for work, not safe for your bar.
Not safe for your grandma. It's not for your grandma.
Yeah.
Unless she's
You don't know my
grandma.
That's good.
So we're going to be chatting about adaptions and what's the funny things that projects go through when they're adapted. Look, we can quickly chat about real adaptions that we've seen.
Yeah.
That we don't like, that we hate.
Can we talk about ones that we like?
Yeah, you can talk about ones that you love, that you want to marry because you love it so much. Well, you brought up Judge Dredd before.
I did. That was my idea.
Dredd and Judge Dredd.
Haven't seen it.
Either of them?
No.
Oh.
Really?
No, you should.
Yeah.
You
Well-
totally should.
Well, okay. Well, let's preface this. All right, so they're based on the comic, the 2000 AD comics, which is a British comics.
It was once also a DC comic as well.
Oh, really?
I think they still are to an extent, yes.
So yeah, it's all set in America. I think Mega City 1, Mega City 2. They're sort of set in the US, New York and LA. They're mega cities, and of course, Judge Dredd is the main character. He's a judge. These guys are the ones who enforce law and just
Judge, jury, and executioner.
Yeah, they keep
Like
society
Judge
together.
Judy.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
Judge
Judy,
Judy.
execution.
And Judge Dredd is iconic because he's just the coolest and the most fantastic judge ever. And he's taciturn and he's brutal and just awesome. So they had to do movies of him. And let's see, in the 90s, I think they did, it might have been the late 80s, but I think it was the 90s. They did one with Stallone. And this was a very hyper, glammy kind of movie, sort of over the top. It's good in that everybody has, like, the costumes are, like, almost spot on in a lot of ways. And it takes on that hyper glammy kind of aspect that is in the comics. It really does feature in the comics. There's like exaggerated reality, huge shoulder pads, just crazy, insanely horrible things happening.
There are characters that are somewhat humanoid, but they still kind of break the frame of being human. You have lots of different variations, lots of different costumes, like Ozone was saying. And it also goes outside of Mega City. You see a few different aspects or like things that were related to the comic.
The Cursed Earth, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
and a few other major characters as well. So it was a bit more expansive than, say, the later movie, the one that came out in, what was it? 2000? No, not 2009. I can't remember. But that one is a lot more serious. Like, whereas the Stallone one, which is called Judge Dredd, has more humor. It has more kind of like 90s action-y tropes and stuff like that, It's a coat of many colors, we can just say. But the newer one that came out, it's just called Dread, is almost on the completely other side of the coin in terms of like tone. It's much more serious. Here, it all takes place within one place, not just within Mega City, but it takes place within one block in Mega City. and you're dealing with one main bad guy, and there aren't really costumes that are really as out there or that break the human form so much or anything like that. They're all very human, and both movies are worthwhile in their own right. Except for it, and the newer one and the Dredd one, Dredd actually keeps his helmet on. That was one of the big things was in Judge Dredd. He takes it off, and it's like the big taboo. You never ever see Dredd's face, or at least like the top half of his face. But so it's two very different movies, and ever since the newer one came out, dislike for the old one has really flared up. Because people didn't really trash it so much before. Like they might, but it was also kind of like, oh, well, this is, like nostalgia, or like at least it's something, or it's kind of fun. Whereas now you see a lot of people since the newer one came out that are just like, man, the old Dredd sucks. It's an abomination, like that. So it's kind of like envelops the difference between the Hollywoodized version, as we'll say, where you need the big action and you need to see the main character's face, and all that kind of stuff, versus the newer Dredd, which is a bit more low key and won't necessarily appeal to everybody.
Right.
Oh yeah, but in some ways they're both true to different aspects of the comic.
Well, yeah.
In other ways, they're both not true to the comic.
Yeah, and you could say that for a lot of adaptations of things as well. But for our purposes, like the mainstream thing, when, say, because we were talking about when Hollywood gets a hold of your movie, right? Or of your comic or your work, and just the ways that it changes things. And I wonder too if as soon as somebody says mainstream, if we're more predisposed to hate those things, whereas maybe we wouldn't if that word wasn't in there. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. Yeah, you hear that word that has a negative connotation.
I think the reason that it does have this negative connotation is that there are some highly notorious, let's say, adaptations or versions of works that are objectively disingenuous to the source material. It's not just that they choose to underline or focus in one aspect of the work, leaving the other aspects out, but this is at least faithful to it. It's that they go against the grain almost, like it's a special effort is invested in not being like the source material. So
yeah. Well, like Gem and the holograms.
Yes, that's one thing. And I personally, as a kid, wasn't a fan, but I knew it enough to know immediately that this has nothing to do with Gem and the holograms. And that was one. The other would be, if we want to, like a more modern example of source material would be The Last Airbender. And if you take the original series and then you take how the movie was adapted, that's like, if you got a checklist of things to do wrong to piss absolutely everyone off that even remotely liked the original series. So it's like a very meticulously, affectionately made checklist. Yeah. So I think that we are more going towards that streak of adaptation rather than a legit adaptation that underlines, like, for example, in Batman, you have Nolan's super dark, super gritty versions of Batman, but that's just one aspect that he chooses to bring to life. And there are other aspects of Batman, just as
So we're doing
That
less
wouldn't-
Nolan Batman and more Dragon Ball Evolution.
Yes, exactly.
More Batman and Robin. Batman.
That would be actually on the fence, because if you saw the 1960s, I think, TV series of Batman and Robin, no, Batman or whatever, the one that went
The Adam
when
West
they
one.
yes, and then the one with Adam West, it wouldn't be that far of a stretch to end up with Batman and Robin.
Yeah,
I don't think
That's true.
that.
that's a defense
But
for the movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Evolution is like perfect. For
Dragon Ball Evolution. Well, I'll start off this. I came up with a treatment for Bottomless Waitress. Now, if you don't know Bottomless Waitress, this is a comic set in a diner with 3 ladies, and the thing here is they're all bottomless, although you never actually see anything rude because it's very cleverly hidden.
Yeah, little friends.
Yeah, they're all good friends. There's Polly, Jane, and Frances. 3 lovely ladies, and there's this character Craig who sort of washes dishes, and he has a crush on Jane, and Polly teases him about it. And there's a bit of a dynamic. It's a diner in a small country town, and you have small country people coming in. So my adaptation for that, all right, it's going to be a live action movie.
Excuse me, sorry.
All the girls now are teens. All 3 girls are Polly, Jane, and Frances. They're all 14. They're all in the same class in school, and they all do waitressing as a side job at a cool hipster cafe called the Bottomless Diner, but because they serve endless coffee refills. So we're cutting all that like bottomlessness out. Like, yeah, they're schoolgirls. They all have
because
a
it's sexy,
What's that?
Because
Yeah.
it's sexy.
They all have a crush on Craig, who works at the cafe, but he's older than them now. He's 18. And he's in a cool goth emo group. And he's the lead singer. And they love him. And the story totally centers around a battle of the bands. And the bottomless band ultimately come up against Craig's band. And just as it looks like the whole love connection is going to be doomed forever, Craig's band breaks up the night before the big, the big duel, and he ends up doing a duet on stage with Jane, and everyone cheers, and him and Jane kiss as everyone's cheering, and that's the end of the movie.
There you go.
And what about the other 2 girls that like him, though?
Oh, Jane, Frances and Polly, well, they just kiss other members of his band. I don't know.
No, what they have to do is they have to be part of the simple misunderstanding that goes too far. Like, Craig will be talking to one of them, but then Polly or Frances or whoever will, like, think that they're like together, and what can be solved in 5 minutes of explanation that doesn't at all have to be awkward lasts the entire movie.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, but I thought, oh my god. Oh yes, exactly.
Yeah,
that's where all the tension is going to be coming from. Nothing to do with stakes being ramped up or anything like that. Just misunderstandings about love triangles.
yes.
Oh.
That's all you need. You just keep on milking it over and over. So, have you guys thought about this? Like, Typical Strange. What would happen to Typical Strange if it was Hollywoodized?
Well, Typical Strange is already Hollywoodized and pandering, horrible schlock, and ham-fisted. So let me see. Well, let me stretch a bit. Everyone would have to be youthened, like you say, to 18 or 17, maybe. They all happen to be white, so they would definitely have to There would have to be members of all races. The cast would have to be changed.
Yeah.
So it's like every box is checked for diversity and at least one gender fluid character. Maybe we'll give one of them a guy's name, even though she's a female.
Oscar's in a wheelchair now.
And they'd have to be, all the whole rainbow would have to be represented of all the races on Earth, and the gender fluid. The villain could be a white guy, maybe a white woman, and they would always lose. And other than that, you could keep the plots as is because they're ham-fisted enough. And maybe you'd let,
just needs to be PC'd, and
that's all I could think of. Exactly, it needs diversity, and it needs to be screaming some kind of cultural agenda in every story. But other than that, it could probably stay pretty much the same.
All right, so it's being made better, actually.
It'd be made better.
It would require a
Could be
catchy
better.
introduction song.
Say again?
It would require a very catchy introduction song for the opening titles. That would present every single one of them in very happy-go-lucky situations.
Yeah.
Oh, the Friends song. It's just going to have the Friends song, basically.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe you could just add that and keep everything else the same. Yeah, just add that song, and it's already pretty Hollywoodized. Yeah.
I hate that song. Funny thing is, that song came out before that TV series, and I sort of liked it because it was poppy and fun. But as soon as that TV series came out, oh my god, it just changed overnight. I hated it.
Right.
I don't know. I don't love it. I don't hate it either.
The Rembrandt.
Yeah, it's catchy.
Oh jeez. So what about Moonlight?
Yeah.
Oh no, Brave Resistance. That's a good
Yes,
one.
let's do Brave Resistance first. Oh, okay. So
Perhaps a buddy cop. Maybe we could turn it into that. A buddy cop thriller.
yeah,
Hunter and Nikos. And
yeah.
Luca. There's three of them together. And Hackett would be the bad guy.
Yes, and Ludger would just be. He would be a misunderstood Nazi. He wouldn't be, actually bad. He just doesn't realize the truth of the matter, and he will have this epiphany, possibly by falling in love with one of the Greek
Yes,
women.
yeah. And he wears glasses too, so that means that he would be a tech guy.
Yes.
Take
He is probably developing this secret Uber weapon. That's why he wants the engine from the plane. And
Is it set in the modern days though, or the past?
no, still World War II.
No, it's Hollywood, so
Oh, it
we
doesn't
don't know.
matter. It's anachronistic.
Yes.
And you know what? Hackett always fails to find the engine, so he goes on his own in a mission, in a one-man mission. Ludger just goes up into the mountains to find the engine himself.
yes.
But then he sort of he's discovered, or he has this situation where he sees the empowered female fighting off some I don't know, some Nazis or some wild boar or whatever, and she is like super empowered, and she has her own moves, and he's just bedazzled, and
Yeah, she's
he
doing
seeks
Asian
to-
martial arts against.
yes, he's totally. She flies across like those those Chinese fighters.
Kung Fu film.
And okay, now I got it. And now Ludger, he wants to win her affection, so he hides the fact that he is SS, and he presents himself as being some kind of weird resistance guy. And then eventually, when he becomes friends with everybody, they will discover that, and they will go through this whole "you lied to me."
How could you?
And he will have to he will be expelled rather than arrested and shot on sight, and he will be expelled because the betrayal is just too hard, but everybody still loves him, so he will be just defenestrated, and then he will have to face off Hackett on his own.
And they'll come...
But then, just as it's about to reach its climax, a big, huge American eagle comes in and smacks him across the face, and we win the war.
Yes,
and an American diligence and might wins the day.
And
of course,
maybe you could do a crossover with Too Fast, Too Furious. They'll hop into sports cars.
Oh yeah, they will be like this bomber plane. Is going to pass over, but instead of bombs, they're going to just drop the rock, and I don't know who else.
And lands with like a catchphrase. He's like, oh, I can't. No, I'll come up with something.
And they will.
He punches them, and he says, "You did not see this," and then he punches him.
Yes,
Nazi
exactly.
Did not see. Did not see this coming. Bam!
And the Nazi that he punches is Tommy Wiseau. And he says, "You did not see this."
I did
not see this.
That's brilliant. That'll sell. You gotta shop this around, guys. You gotta option this out to Hollywood. It's gonna be huge. So, what about Putrid Meat? No, Blitzov, the Epic of Blitzov.
I can't choose which one I want to shop. All right. Well,
no, you can choose.
Okay. Well, Blitzov will just become the Hunger Games, and Putrid Meat will become Deadpool.
That's a good call. I can actually picture it.
Oh God!
Oh, this is Bones. Isn't he wacky? You don't know what he's gonna do next. Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
But he will never. But he will never do anything that is actually, douchebaggy. He will be like the kind-hearted prankster guy that.
And he would be able to take so many kids.
Yes.
Or maybe you could do like a Garbage Pail Kids thing.
Just... Make it completely suck.
Up. Yeah, that's the whole theme of this QUACKCAST.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
A letdown in every way.
Exactly.
There's not any putrid or meat in this movie at all. I want my money back.
Neither putrid nor meat.
I came out of the theater and I was still hungry.
So what about without Moonlight?
Oh, okay.
Ooh. I've got some ideas.
It would be set in a slightly 1920s situation. Or even if it is in the war, it's going to feel like we are still in a high school drama where you have the factions of the resistance, and you have Orestes being the cool guy that does things, and he has he's like the cool bad boy of the school. And then you also have Basil being the leader of the other faction, who are more nerdy guys, but still very efficient in what they do. But they don't have the style that Orestes has. And they are more rough around the edges and everything. And they also are diverse, whereas Orestes isn't diverse. And they are very accepting, even if you don't do everything right immediately. They are very, whereas Orestes is like the Cobra Kai of resistance.
The Cobra.
and then they both fight for Martha, who is this bombshell, a strong female that in the first few scenes is going to kick ass, and then she will be nerfed for the rest of the movie. And
West Side Story kind of fight.
Yeah, but Officer Krapke is going to be Arthur, of course, who is going to be like this bumbling idiot that wants to be always doing nasty stuff, but he always fails because he is accident prone. And he's going to be the comic relief of the whole situation. And then there's going to be this huge fight that is being very, hyped up between the two factions of the resistance for the affections of Martha, because that's the only thing that they fight for.
It's the only thing that matters.
Nothing else matters. It's all about who Martha will pick to join, of course. And they have to prove themselves, because of course he has to know who the best ones are in order to join forces. But while they are all set on one side of the road, all the sleek Cobra Kai guys, and on the other side you have all the ragtag but super efficient, also techie, nerdy, diverse, whatever guys. On the other, then the Fire Nation attack, the Nazis attack, and they have to work together. And
put aside the differences.
They put aside the differences, but of course, because we don't want to have Martha choose and be the bitch towards one or the other guy, Orestes, of course, gets clipped very heroically. And Basil and Orestes discover that they were friends all along, but of course now Orestes dies for a while until Basil gets the girl, but then he reappears when the Nazis attack again and say that he actually wasn't actually dead, but he was very, very injured, but this guru guy found him, probably, I know who, Father Yanis.
Have you been actually writing this in the background and you were just waiting for this opportunity to just tell us all about your new story that you're working on?
It's so detailed.
This is how my brain is when I just let it go rampant. So Father Yanis comes and he takes and heals with his mystical power, Christian healing sort of thing, which is not all Christian, it is all the religions, because of course, and he resurrects Orestes, and Orestes comes back, and it's a happy ending.
I actually had a treatment in my head for Without Moonlight that was very different from that.
Oh, go on, please. I want to hear it.
I would do it all as a romantic comedy from Martha's perspective.
Oh, awesome.
So it's all based on her, and she's a working lady in the big city, and she's getting a new job and in a position of power, of course, leadership, and she has these two attractive men working under her, Orestes and Basil, and she has to choose.
Actually, that sounds good. And what happens? She has to choose. Okay.
Exactly. And there's all kind of drama with the businesses being taken over by this massive German firm headed by Arthur. And, it's like a hostile takeover. And she's got these two brave guys working under her. What's that?
And then it becomes a love affair because he, of course, also is interested. Because everyone is interested in the main lead.
Exactly.
Woman.
Even Fotis, who is also there. And he's this young delivery boy.
Yeah, the mail boy, the guy that gives the mail.
Exactly, the mail boy, and he's got a massive crush on Martha as well, and she has to let him down very gently, and and the big romance is like heating up between her and Arthur. Maybe it's going to be a marriage made in heaven because they'll get together and the businesses will get together and these two things will and then Basil and Orestes are going to be totally out of the picture, and that's how it's all going to, and that's the movie's going to be that. But at the very last moment, no, she goes, I could never be with you. I'm sorry, but I just can't merge our businesses. I want my business to be mine alone. And sorry.
I'm too independent for a merger and
Exactly.
acquisition.
And in a twist, it turns out Orestes was working for that firm all along. And they fire him, get rid of Orestes, and she goes with Basil, and it's happy ever after. And Fotis gets his own girl in the end as well.
The other main girl.
Yes. But that's like a comic relief kind of thing happens with him.
Oh my god, that actually is sellable.
So that's my take. Totally just change the setting to modern day New York and we're fine.
Oh, and for extra pissing off points, you might have Fotis daydreaming about, in a sort of The Secret Life of Walter Mitty sort of thing. They daydreaming about World War II and have all the characters arranged properly. And that will be your poster for the movie.
That'll also be the trailer as well. So the trailer will be totally set in the 1940s in Greece. And that's the only thing you will see of the whole film. Will just be that little dream sequence and nothing else.
Exactly.
All set in modern day New York. Oh, that reminds me of Biggles. Did you ever see that?
No.
Biggles Adventures in Time. So Biggles was this fantastic series of books written in World War One and into like the Second World War, all this kind of stuff for this heroic British pilot. They did a movie, Biggles Adventures in Time, totally set in modern New York, I think, with this guy, and Biggles like comes out of time or whatever to take this guy back to World War II, and you just have a bit of that, and that's all. And this guy is the hero, this American modern day fellow. So it's just totally nothing to do with Biggles at all. So yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing we're going for with Without Moonlight. Just rip it out of its setting.
And in the PR, if people say they don't like it, we're gonna call them out as problematic in some way.
Yeah, intolerant. What, you can't accept a woman as the main character? What the hell is wrong with you?
Yes, exactly.
You sexist, misogynist piece of shit.
And how dare you? Like, you want Nazis in the movie? How dare you?
Spit on you.
You're not.
This is this beautiful piece of work. You should support it. Well, I think we've got a winner there with Without Moonlight.
Yes.
That's definitely a winner. Right. We do have some ones here we can read about, but maybe we should go deeper and mess up Putrid Meat a bit more.
We can read other people's contributions. That's fine.
You don't want us to ruin Putrid Meat?
You can if you want, but I think it might be more interesting if we get into other things that people have said.
Okay. You guys got the link? I'll link to it again in the comments. Give you the link. All right. Well, the first one is from Jamin Rising. Jamin Rising. And what's his comic?
Jamin.
Comics by Jamin Rising. It's Ed, and Eddie's cack-handed reboot. Oh my god.
Well, there you go. He's
Oh
ahead of
my
us.
God. Yes. So there you are. That's going completely the other way. So he's turning a cartoon, like I wouldn't say it's Hollywood, but it's a mainstream cartoon into his comics. So yeah, he's reinventing everything. So he says, I kind of messed up them already because Jim and Sean has ranged from a dull comic strip archetype that would make Dilbert look like Hagar the Horrible to a fusion of every over-the-top wackiness in the same vein as Looney Tunes, Monty Python, Bo. That's a name.
Bo.
But if they were to mess it up with today's standards, then they'd either adapt it like Rick and Morty, since it's exactly like the latter. They were originally an unbearably cynical spoof of an 80s time-traveling pair, Bill and Ted's, and instead of Doc and Marty. Or they'd go the Powerpuff Girls route and strip it of everything that made it good and begin with just reassemble it as a 2014 Clarence, but with superpowers. And they'd give it Hergé give Hergé an unnecessary spin-off, which would essentially be a rip-off of both the Harvey kids and Hilda. I'd be okay with the latter as long as Ben Boquois would be attached. Okay. I don't know the reference at all. Ben Boquois.
No, a lot of those references I didn't get.
Harvey and Hilda, and yeah, I'm not sure. I know what he means about the new Powerpuff Girls thing. That's totally nothing to do with the original Powerpuff Girls. They sort of just changed it. So Powerpuff Girls is an interesting thing because that started off as like something that was for more mature kids, sort of adults. It was an interesting, very naughty, sexy, kind of fun thing that just happened to have these girls as with superpowers. You know, and you'd have like transvestite baddies, like him, who is a very highly sexually charged character. You'd have the relationship between the mayor and his secretary, who is a very sexy woman, but you never see her face. All sorts of things. And as the show went on, they found, like, weirdly, it had a kiddie appeal, you know? The children, like little girls, had an appeal to it, even though it was never, ever aimed at that demographic. And because they saw a market there, they aimed this reboot totally at little girls. So they took out everything that made it sexy and fun and just kept in the lame little girl stuff, which was only there as like a contrast. It was only there as like just as a weird contrast with all the sexy weird stuff that was happening, and totally stripped it of anything good. So that's a really good point about Hollywood rebooting kind of stuff. And that's not even an old thing either. It's was rather current, and it still got rebooted. Yeah. So next up we have used books. And what did she say?
Oh, used books. Here, I'll read this. Used books of the comic Used Books, of course. She says, my main characters would be demoted to romantic interests. All edge would be removed, leaving Yuki a ditzy, clueless type Barbie girl, and Kaida a tragic melodrama character. There'd just be two women, just enough to talk to each other about men. One secondary character would be the lead, probably Fudo. Anti-heroes are in, so Hollywood would remove any redeeming qualities and make him grittier. Hero, would still be in it for merchandising, but he'd be CG, an anthropomorphized wisecracking sidekick. Possibly not a cat, but whatever animal is trending on social media. Maybe a red panda or a fox. That's it.
I can see that.
Oh my god. Maybe you could reboot it as a furry thing.
There you go.
Hey, listen. And of course, everything would take place in the bookshop, and it would be very much like all the scenes from Friends in the bookshop.
Oh, right. The coffee shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, just chatting on a couch.
Everyone would somehow come in that used books shop, and everything would happen there with minimal outdoor scenes. Purposes.
And they'd all live in an expensive apartment.
Yes. That they couldn't possibly afford on just used books.
Just used books. Oh god. Well, next up we have a Bravo. So
okay. I'll read that.
Thank you.
So Laria would be a sparkly magical girl with all the anime big boob tropes and get blonde hair. Saoirse would be the single goth lolly magical girl companion. And they're in high school, and both after the same boy who has this sword that's wanted by the evil president of the student council. Using Sword of Kings to high school clubs, magical girls, and harem anime. There is no way Hollywood would ruin Robothmoids so long as I got paid. I'd rewrite or reimagine it any way they want because I'm always willing to sell out so long as I get paid. Creative control, nah. Just get it out there and I get paid. Paid! If the check has enough zeros on it, they can do anything they want, and I'll even help them do it. So long as I get paid.
Let me just PS to mine. I agree with that too. Yeah, exactly. I mean, one's listening.
Sort of the whole point of the damn thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. As an anime, because then he gets all the anime tropes in there. That's good. I think if Hollywood Reboot did their own version of Robothmoids, there'd be no boobs. There'd be none of that. It would all be safe. So all the stuff that made it would be changed, and they would no longer be grey aliens anymore. They'd be like government agents.
Right.
And they wouldn't be robots anymore. They'd be drugged. So you've got to change everything to make it more realistic, of course. And no boobs.
We have to also discuss like gritty reboots eventually, right? Because there's also like the cash grab that is also a gritty reboot.
The gritty reboot, yeah. Exactly. The Dredd to Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
The
Judge Dredd to Dredd.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Get your dread straight, guys.
Well, there's Smarty Smythe. Pitt, do you want to read out the Smarty Smythe if you've got that on your compy?
Some Smarty Smythe. All right. Mean Jar says, Smarty Smythe. First, the ethnic humor would be politically correct to death. The monastery and the monks would all get name changes. No more Shin Huang Lo. No more Cow Tung Tung Lick. Or Fu Kin Ku Ki.
Oh, God.
Phyllis would be sanitized, no longer a hardened Jewish refugee from a war-torn Middle East, or take or take away her sexually libertine ways. According to some PCs, strong women aren't slutty and slutty women aren't strong. We're becoming very, very politically active on this particular.
Yes.
Very would be very changed from her lily white Scandinavian form into a visible minority, while leaving her brother not so inexplicably, I can speak, still white along with the friend Rob, because you can't have stupid minority characters unless the cast is mainly of that color. It's only okay to make fun of whites or perhaps Middle Eastern types, but not in the way I depict Phyllis. I could go on and on.
Please
my
don't.
God.
Please don't. We'll get in trouble. Jeez, Meme Jar.
And I like Lothar's right after it. He says, pretty sure Hollywood wouldn't touch my stuff.
Oh, you would be surprised. I mean, I can totally see them taking something that is super, super sultry and sexy and raunchy even, and turning it into like
A kid's cartoon.
Hallmark or a Hallmark movie or something
Yeah.
like that. Like going, like let's play patty cakes.
Patty Cake's the movie.
Hell, Battleship was a movie. I mean, jeez.
Oh,
That's
You know,
right.
they could make, like, I can see Grind as a title for a hard harvest movie, like about peasants, and they are all, you know, in the
Grinding flour.
grind.
Huh.
Yes, they are grinding, like, especially if they are like using very medieval sort of tools. They are, you know, all going through the moves, grinding.
That's it. I was just thinking, you know, you said they could change anything. Hollywood change. Have you seen Run Lola Run? Fantastic movie. Just
Yes.
Long
Awesome.
time ago.
Tom
I like
Tykwer, the three options, how you go back in the past, whatever. The reboot of that was a movie called And Then Came Lola.
Oh,
And it's about a lesbian love triangle. It has nothing to do with the original.
Did Lola eventually
really?
come though?
Yeah, in a hurry. She.
Lola gets no. It's really dumb. I'm sorry.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. So Hollywood will do it. It sounds like we're being silly with our ridiculous things, but this is total reality. This is cold hard realism. So yeah, there's Dr. Trembles now. Well, there's Scream.
oh, Scream.
And he's done many beautiful comics, just amazing, all sorts of styles. You should totally check him out. So he says, Dr. Trembles NYMD. Oh, interesting. So, Dr. Chip Trembles is down on his luck. He's wisecracking New York plastic surgeon, played by Matthew Perry, channeling Chandler Bing. He is stuck in a hectic screwball love triangle with his personal assistant, Beyonce Chundrels, and his soon-to-be ex-wife, a Wall Street financial analyst named Harridan Niedermeyer. Harridan Niedermeyer. And after discovering a pirate treasure map in an old Coke machine in a steam-filled back alley behind his low-rent surgery in the Bronx, Chip and Beyonce search for love and Spanish bullion in the chilly waters of the Hudson River. Will Chip Harrison settle a custody battle for their 8 chihuahuas? Will Beyonce and Chip find love? Or will they be thwarted by the dashing and dastardly scuba instructor who's secretly on the payroll of Harridan? All set to the music and sponsored by WWE SummerSlam?
SummerSlam.
SummerSlam. Oh, I couldn't read that there was an I there. It was some kind of Japanese thing. SummerSlam.
That's like a romancing the stone meets how to break up in 20 days or something.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Like, to me, this sounds like an actual big budget movie.
Yeah.
It's like so funny.
Oh my god, it could. The funny thing is, we're so hardwired to recognize these tropes that you almost think of these things as being good because these are movies you have seen.
Yeah.
So even though they're totally terrible, ripping the heart out of these comics, we've seen it and we've liked these movies because these mainstream big budget things actually appeal to us on some level.
Yeah.
Oh, also I forgot to say, like in the with that Moonlight thing, either versions, Basil would have both arms, of course, and but perhaps like he would have like a glove on the left one or the right one or whatever, something to diversify the hands, and Otis's face would look pristine, except for maybe like a shadow, a very thin hint.
An
like
attractive little tiny scar.
Very, very attractive and very, very, hair thin and perfectly placed on his face to show off his eyes that are going to both be intact, of course.
Uh-huh.
And yeah.
That reminds me of something I'll tell you guys after the QUACKCAST. So, but it's not that important, but yeah, it's just something more private. But yeah, you'd be more attractive.
$100 patrons, you can hear it.
Yeah. You're gonna be in the inner circle for 100
inner circle. Oh jeez. Oh, I didn't bring up Pinky T. I only mentioned her on the video. Should I do the Pinky T?
Yeah.
She would wear military.
Oh, that's a good idea.
But they would be like, for example, they would have extra patches on her buttocks.
Like sewn over them, like 5 extra patches.
Yes.
You can see the layers.
Yes, and they would be pink, and that's why she would be Pinky.
Yes. So she has totally jet black hair.
Yes.
And yeah, just has pink patches on her trousers.
And of course, she has amethyst eyes.
Oh,
of course.
Of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hence the, pink. She has pink in all the wrong places.
Oh God.
So Ozone Ocean says, "Blimey!" Oh no, you did one for Bottomless Waitress. Never mind. We skipped that one. Okay.
All right. Well. Okay, so Pinky TA Hollywood edition. It's animated. Pinky is 16. She's taken out of school by a secret agency that needs her because her mum used to work for them. But now her mum has disappeared. And of course, it follows that her daughter should follow directly on and get the same job, as happens. So Pinky is now a secret agent working.
Success by nepotism.
With no logic or training to explain why. And she's working while she's still in school, of course. And along with Pinky is a plucky group of annoying teens, all her age, who are all super cool. She's got a crush on Ace. And Cece is a rich bitch girl rival who also has a crush on Ace. And Pinky has to fight in a giant mech battles against mysterious evil, and hopefully she'll find a clue to where her mum disappeared to. But in the meantime, there's all the school dramas she has to deal with, especially the prom. And the fights that happen during the prom. And the love triangles. Love triangles, yeah, so that...
Also, the rich bitch Sissy character is also going to be working as a secret agent as the daughter of the other rich bitch agent that is also missing.
while they're in school, yeah. And
Yes.
the whole thing is just centered around the high school. I don't even know what it's called. I can't even think of
The
the thing.
school is built on top of a top secret 1950s time capsule
Oh my
that
god.
everybody forgot, and now they have to find a way to go and get it without the principal finding out, because of course a government agency cannot order the damn school to be closed for like a weekend. So, and then they realized that the capsule actually holds a radioactive alien thing that
It'll give them superpowers. Whoever gets
yes, or it turns people crazy upon if they look at it too long, and that's what happened to their mothers. One of them got superpowers and the other got crazy.
Oh my
And
god.
and they have to find them before the final exams, or they're going back.
Oh god. Yeah, totally schoolish. So this is sort of like a crash course in making your comics into saleable Hollywood things so you could possibly make millions of dollars.
So we're knocking them, but actually do these things.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff could work, actually. I can see some of this actually working.
Yeah, but not under the titles. Like they could work under their own IP in a sense. But when you take, if you take the cast and bend them out of shape, you're gonna have to do some PR damage control, and of course that's where the PR comes in. Tell you that they're not good enough. You should like it, or you are evil.
Yeah. That's what the PR damage control is. You suck. You all suck.
We took this in new and progressive and groundbreaking directions. You hear them.
You troglodyte scum.
Because the originals weren't developed enough, and they weren't up with the times and everything.
Exactly.
Caveman shit, we're adapting this. You should be happy.
Yes.
You should be thanking us, kissing our feet. That's how it works in these days. All right. Well, I think we've reached our hour and over. So thank you for listening to the Crapcast.
We should have adapted the QUACKCAST to Hollywood.
Oh, God.
I don't know how that would work. I'll work on that.
We're already mainstream
or
enough.
someone
What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. This was already sold to a big studio, so
We're
maybe
now
it's fine.
CNN.
Exactly.
If we were to sell it any further, we'd be telling people about Lisa mattresses and Sherry's berries, Dollar Shave
Nobody would buy
Club,
this.
Dollar Shave Club. Yeah.
Oh yeah, where are they?
Audible.
By the way, be sure to check out your fine audio books.
Hey, you know what? Fuck you. I love Audible. They're not
Yeah,
sponsoring
yeah.
us, but go listen to them anyway.
The
Go
great courses.
download some audiobooks.
Yes, Audible are good. Please sponsor us.
I fuck Audible.
All right, thanks for listening to the Quackcast number 414. Oh, good.
Hooray!
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Ah.